Hi, I'm Candie Cooper, and today we're going to make a really cool piece. It's a necklace, but it's also a bookmark. I'm using it here to hold a place in my sketchbook. It uses a lot of boho-style beads and tassels, and you're going to get the chance to learn some really basic beginner jewelry making techniques. So let's look at what we need. We're on the road today, so I've got beads from around the world. Let's start with this little dish that I've got these Indian-inspired beads. You can see there's all kinds of little embellishments, even tiny mirrors, tons of details on this style of bead. Then, did you know I used to live in China? These are some beads I brought back in my pocket. Cloisonné beads, and these are that just means metal beads that have been covered with special glass. And then this is a special cinnabar bead. That's a type of wood. Okay, up front we've got check beads. I need to get a few more of these, I think. This is pressed glass, so you can see it's got lots of detail and designs in them. And back here, I've got some beads from the Philippines. These are some of my favorites because they've got paper embellished beads, wood beads, and shell beads because there's lots of water and beaches in the Philippines. Now, to make the bookmark necklace, you'll also need some ribbon. This is 5/8 wide, some scraps of chain. Do you recognize this? It's a key ring. Some lanyard hooks, maybe some tassels, 20 gauge wire, some scissors, and some basic jewelry making pliers that I'll talk about here in a minute. Okay, so to get started, I've got my bead assortment here, and we're gonna grab our 20 gauge wire. When it comes to wire, it comes in different diameters. So 20 gauge is simply the diameter of the wire. Okay, so let's string one bead onto our wire. And I'm just gonna show you a really easy way to make a bead into a charm. So what we're gonna do is bring the end of the wire up and wrap it around that central wire. Just a couple times will do it. And then you're gonna use your wire cutters and snip the spool away from your the start of your beaded dangle. Now, to finish the end, we're gonna make another loop. And what I was thinking is if you don't have jewelry pliers handy, you can use the end of a paintbrush and just wrap that wire on around like so. And then you wanna trim that little leftover piece. Now, when you're trimming small pieces of wire, safety first, guys, okay? You're gonna go to cut and then you're gonna put your finger over the end of the wire that you're snipping away so it doesn't fly off and hit your friend in the face. That's never fun. Now we're gonna connect this piece to one of these little lanyards and set it aside. Let's make another one, except this time let's add a tassel to it. You want to? Okay, I'm gonna use this blue tassel and I'm gonna thread. First I'm gonna string a bead. Sorry guys. String a bead. And now I'm gonna string the tassel onto the wire. Okay, now we are going to wrap. We need a little extra space here. We're gonna wrap the wire and make a little twist, like so. Now you're gonna slide your bead into place and you're gonna wrap this extra wire around again. This is kind of called a wrapped loop. This is kind of a special jewelry making technique. And don't worry if you get a little frustrated, that's perfectly natural when you're learning something new, right? So now let's say you have some jewelry making tools. We'll use those this time. You're gonna leave yourself about 1.5 inches of wire. Cut it from the spool. Now these are special round nose pliers. You can see they have like cone-like tips on them. And I always pretend it's an alligator and it's gonna chomp down on the wire. And you wanna use it towards the back of his throat, if that makes sense. And you're gonna wrap the wire up over his head or his snout. And then the wire comes down underneath him and you're just gonna he's got a good grip on that loop and you're just gonna keep wrapping it around and around and around. And it's this style of wrapped loop that makes it boho inspired. It's very free-spirited. Bohemian is what boho is short for. So now we've got another one. You know what comes next. We're gonna attach that. Now you can do this to all different kinds of things. You can see I've got one connected to a chain. And then what you're going to do is hang all of your pieces and parts to your keyring shape. Now the next thing we're going to do is grab your sketchbook and get a measurement. And you could do this to lots of different books. As long as it's a little bit tall, you want it to slip over your neck. So I'm gonna hold it up at the top. And you see how I'm letting that wire hang off the end? I'm gonna show you why here in a minute. And we're just gonna snip it. Doesn't have to be precise. And now we're going to thread our ribbon through the ring, and we're gonna fold it over and then fold it over again. And that just gives you a nice finished end up here at the top. Okay, now I've got some short little 2-inch pieces of wire, and I'm just gonna wrap this around and around. You could also use a little bit of fabric adhesive or some thick glue if you wanna make sure it's really, really secure, and then wrap it. But this should be pretty good. Okay, I've got that done. Now, you guessed it, we gotta repeat for the other side. Okay, now we're going to fold it through, and I'm gonna come up and around, and I like to make it so that it's folded on the same side. And we're just gonna wrap this so it's nice and snug a couple times. And then remember, put your finger over the wire that you're cutting. And then let's take a look at it. I've got one more bead dangle here that got away. You can pick your favorite colors of beads. You could do all the same color beads. That would make an interesting design. And then you can take some of these off. You could get together with your friends and everybody makes a bunch of dangles and then you trade them with each other. So now I can slip this over my head and wear it, or I can slide it over my sketchbook and keep my place. Now this is a neat technique because you can also make some cute little earrings with these special kidney ear wires and boho dangle beads.